The date was September 15th in 1986 in Bangor, Maine, where the early and now legendary author Stephen King released his 23rd novel, which was released after the release of Skeleton Crew, a collection of short stories published by King in the June of 1985, which, one of its stories was recently adapted into a feature-length film called The Monkey, which you may have heard about. The story of his newest work was set in Derry, Maine, and followed a group of young kids fighting against a mysterious otherworldly creature that took the form of a circus clown named Pennywise. The novel's release was met with immediate success, as the story became a bestseller, despite readers calling it, overly long and, to say it nicely, very, very icky. But of course, with this success came the inevitable green light of a live-action interpretation, which originally came in the form of a mini-series where the iconic clown Pennywise was played by legendary actor Tim Curry.
If you see...
Excuse me, sir. Do you have Prince Albert in a can? You do? Well, you better let the poor guy out.
The series was met with mixed reviews at first, as some really were critical about the miniseries and how messy it was, and the boring second act, which killed a lot of the positive reception when it came to this miniseries. But after this, the series lay dormant for many, many years, as fans around the world were hoping and praying for the franchise to be revitalized and brought to the big screen, which happened in the fateful year of 2017, where director Andy Muschietti was given the reins to direct the newest iteration of the franchise, along with the sequel in 2019. Auditoriums quickly sold out, as this film became one of the biggest horror movies of all time, breaking records at the box office, and critically was just really well reviewed. And as the lights went down, I sat in anticipation for what could be the most important horror movie of my life. But why do I regard it so highly? Well, I guess we'll have to find out as we revisit It, Chapter 1. Greetings, cinephiles and horror fans alike. Welcome back, of course, to Beyond the Credits. I hope you're having a spooktacular October season. I know I am. I just ordered my Halloween costume, which I may reveal in a future review if you're lucky. Or maybe just like the video and subscribe, then I'll show you guys if you're lucky, I guess. But anyway, since we are in the Halloween season, I thought it'd be a perfect time to discuss some horror movies with you guys. As who doesn't love a good horror movie around this time of year, huh? If you just disagreed with me, all I have to say is I have your IP address, and I know where you live, and simply...
I'm coming after you.
I'm joking, don't worry. I'm not joking. I had so many options this Halloween to talk about some fantastic movies that I consider some of my favorite of all time. Films like Scream, The Thing, and Evil Dead. And I even could have talked about more obscure B-movie horror flicks like Malignant, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, or even an underrated classic like Killer Sofa. But as I sat there and pondered to myself on what movie I should talk about this year, I had a thought come to my mind. Why did I fall in love with horror movies in the first place? Because to be honest, as a kid, I had a very particular relationship with horror movies, as I was absolutely terrified of them. Like, listen, I am not going to sugarcoat it at all. I was the biggest, and I do mean the biggest loser when it came to horror movies. I didn't want to be near them. I didn't want to know about them. I just said, shut that shit off. I just want to watch some fucking, like, Dougal, bro. Like, I don't even want to be involved in that sort of stuff. Like, just to give you an example of how bad it was and how much I loathed horror movies, I remember I went to one of my best friends' 14th birthday party, and they all decided they wanted to watch a horror movie. And to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure it was actually Sinister, which maybe that was sort of a blessing in disguise, because that movie still scares me today, but whatever. But instead of manning up and growing a pair, little 14-year-old me said,
I'm gonna do my own thing.
And I played Marvel Contest of Champions for hours on end as I faced the other side of the room, and all my friends laughed at me and called me a bitch, which, on reflection, yeah, that was probably the best option, and that was definitely the best way to describe me. But for some reason, on March 29th, 2017, that stigma that I had for horror movies changed with the release of the first teaser trailer for It Chapter 1. For the first time in my life, I was actually interested in watching a horror movie, something that I had never experienced before. And to be honest, before revisiting this teaser, I didn't really understand, like, why. Like, I hated them so much until that moment, and I said, you know what? Maybe these might not actually be that bad. Maybe, like, I want to try and get into this genre. But after watching the teaser trailer again, I may have realized that it may have had something to do with the fact that this movie came out at the perfect time in my life. life. As when this trailer came out, I was only 14 years old, and I had been used to hearing about horror movies led by adults, but I never really heard of movies about kids or really considered kids being the main characters in a horror movie. So seeing this new horror movie that followed a group of kids similar to my own age at the time almost helped me relate to the premise of this film, because as a kid you often find yourself thinking about what you do in a bad situation like this, like maybe not exactly the same. I never dreamed about killer clowns coming after me, shape-shifting, but you know what I mean. You have these similar thoughts of, oh, in this bad situation, how would I respond to it? And as a kid, that's very fascinating. Not to mention, Pennywise was like the perfect villain for this movie, as he instantly is not only recognizable, but he isn't just some generic horror movie villain or ghost, as the idea of this like evil clown compared to a basic serial killer or ghost is a lot more interesting in the eyes of a 14-year-old kid, or kid in general for that matter, as the idea of a villain that could almost do anything seems a lot more intimidating than a character who's set in reality, which I can't necessarily say that now. Like, I would say that I find the realistic stuff 10 times more scary, but as a kid your imagination runs wild, so it makes sense, honestly. Not to mention, Pennywise's hunger for children in the story makes it even more scary for kids, as bro's not killing adults. He wanted our acid. Not to mention, who actually likes clowns as kids? Like, can we be honest with ourselves? What kid actively went, oh, I wanted to go to the circus to see the clowns? Like, no. And seeing them go through these terrifying scenarios in the trailer made this movie even more interesting. Like, how would you defeat this creature? Like, you're just a bunch of kids, or they were a bunch of kids. And I remember everyone talking about this movie and how scary everyone thought it looked, and all these things mixed together just made this movie so much more hype for everyone. Like, it felt like we were being represented, like, we're finally getting a horror movie, all of us kids, bro. So I waited anxiously for months for this movie to release, and as I sat there in the theater on that magical day, I experienced a movie that would change my life, because not only did I love this movie as a kid, it was the movie that made me completely change my opinion on horror movies. I instantly fell in love with the genre after the release of this movie, and over the years, I've seen more horror movies than probably any other genre of film. So you're probably sitting there wondering what made this movie so good. Why did seeing this movie instantly change my opinion on horror movies? There's honestly a lot to love about this movie, but to avoid any bias or nostalgia, I did take the time to rewatch this movie, so I can give you an up-to-date review of this movie, and obviously see if it holds up, and spoiler alert, it does. So without further ado, let's dive further into what I love and maybe don't love so much about this movie after rewatch. First thing I gotta say, man, is I absolutely love the characters in this movie. Like I said, before as a kid, the idea of kid protagonists in a movie like this was one of the reasons I was compelled to give this movie a shot, and honestly, after reflection, that was for good reason, because the cast in this movie is often one of the most praised elements of this film, and for good reason, because their performances are simply phenomenal. Especially considering, like, again, they're kids. People don't get how hard it is and how rare it is to get genuine, maybe Oscar-worthy performances out of kid actors, because more often than not, they don't have nearly as much experience as adult actors, and when a kid actor gives a bad performance, it can be even more distracting than if an adult was to give it a bad performance. So there's just like so much pressure on kids, but that's just simply not a problem here, man. Like, they are all so great. Like, oh, they're so good in this movie. So charismatic and likable, every single one of them. And honestly, they act their ass off in certain sequences, especially in the emotional moments with these kids. And it makes it 10 times more effective because it feels real. They go through some horrible things in this movie, but there was never a moment where I wasn't sold that they weren't actually going through these things. It's just so damn impressive. Personally, my favorite performance in this movie is from Finn Wolfhard. Plays your stereotypical asshole friend, who I guarantee, and you are lying if you are going to deny this, that we've all had at some point in our lives.
Is that how you want to spend your summer? Inside of an arcade? You're spending it inside of your mother. Oh.
Who talks big game, but in the end is just such a sissy, but someone who's loyal to a fault and loves his friends and the people around him. I feel like it'd be such an easy way to make an unlikable character, but God, he plays him so perfectly, and he's by far one of the funniest characters in the film. Along with Jack Dylan Grazer, who plays Eddie, he's hilarious as well. I love him so much.
Hey Eddie, these are birth control pills? Yeah, and I'm saving it for your sister.
I also love Sophia Lillis and Jaden Martell in this movie, who play Beverly and Bill. They give a lot of the film's more emotional and heavy moments, and they both do a great job in their own ways. Especially Sophia, who plays Beverly in this movie. She brings just so much depth to her character and emotion, and it makes like all the disputes in this movie with her side of the story feel so much more real, and it sells you, and it's really hard to watch in moments. Like, it's really hard to watch, but it's just how impressive it is that she actually was able to give a performance so strong that you would think like this is real, and you're like, oh my god, like, stop, like, this is horrible to watch. Like, that doesn't happen very often, but in this movie, I really felt that way. And obviously, as well, I gotta mention Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. He's also phenomenal in this film. Like, I know some people grew up with the miniseries and say, oh, Tim Curry's better. And listen, I can respect that, but dude, put some respect on his name, because my god, he truly deserves all the praise he gets in these movies. Like, god, just go back to that first scene in this movie where Georgie meets Pennywise for the first time. Like, god, it's so good. Like, it's such a good scene. I love it. His mannerisms, his personality, the voice, the costume, it's all just perfect. And of course, that adorable smile. Like, how can you not love this guy?
Huh?
Okay, yeah, now I remember why you don't love this guy. But dude, going back to the kids, I just absolutely love the Losers Club's chemistry with one another. It's so damn accurate to what actual friends say to each other. Like, they really don't sugarcoat it in this movie. And this is a message to parents really quick. I gotta sit you down. I'm gonna tell you this. This is how your kids are talking at school.
It says they slice the tip of your dick off.
Yeah, and I think the rabbi's gonna pull down your pants. Turn to the crowd and say, where's the music?
I'm sorry. Between a bunch of boys, this is the most accurate depiction of what it is actually like. And I know this because this is exactly how my friends talk to each other back in the day. Which is why I think these characters resonate so much with me, because I watch them interact with one another, and I see my friends. And that's really something special in my opinion. Especially since I often think back to those good old days when life was so much simpler, and it fills me with such fond memories. It's like a window to the past, and I vividly remember watching this movie in theaters with all my friends. I remember how much fun we had, the laughs we shared, and the terror we all endured together. And listen, I don't want to get cheesy, but it just adds to so much how I feel of this movie. It's so damn special to me, and it makes me love this movie even more. And it really relates to that notion that I said where this movie just came out at the perfect time. And obviously, there are so many great and creepy moments in this film, like, oh, so many expertly crafted jump scares and horrifying imagery that in the eyes of a kid are genuinely terrifying. Case in point, this chick.
Ew, what the fuck? What the fuck?
This ugly, revolting, Edvard Munch painting head ass is responsible for so many nightmares that not only I had to go through, but one of my best friends had to go through after we saw this movie. I do have something I need to say about the jump scares in this movie though, and that's after rewatch. I did notice what is with their obsession with Tweaker Pennywise running at the camera like every single jump scare. Like, I swear, they do it every other jump scare. And I gotta be honest, they're definitely the least frightening out of all the scares in this movie. Like, you'll have a scene with some amazing build-up, like the scene where Bill's walking through his house because he thinks he sees Georgie, leading him to the basement where Pennywise is waiting. Like, it's some really creepy shit. But then it's just kind of ruined but with this low frame rate Pennywise running at the screen, and it takes me out a bit every single time it happens. And I gotta stress, it's like, it's not terrible. For a kid, it's very effective, but after rewatch, I will be honest, I thought I'd mention it because it's a common complaint I do see with this film, and after rewatching it, I can definitely see it. Like, I can definitely agree with that. There are other scenes in this movie that I do have slight issues with as well, like the headless ghost scene, just because, again, it's another CGI creature with, like, jerking motions running towards our protagonist, and it's just not scary, especially since they still feel the need to go back and show it's actually Pennywise. Like, duh. Like, who else would it be? I do feel like a couple scares in this movie will be dependent on your age and experience with horror movies in general, but for the most part, I still think that there are some really horrifying sequences in this film. I also alluded to it earlier, but my god, this movie is hilarious.
What's that?
Oh, that? That's the charter for Dairy Township.
Nerd alert.
No, actually, it's really interesting. Derry started as a beaver trapping camp.
Still is, am I right, boys?
Like, oh my god, dude. It never feels out of place either, and if it does, it's so intentional, and it doesn't undercut any of the movie's more important, intense scenes. Because if I was a kid and saw a killer clown coming out of a projector, I'd definitely be swearing like a sailor as well. Also, dude, I gotta say, that Pennywise dance scene, man, like, bruh. Like, I know they probably thought it'd come off unnerving just because of how it's filmed and his expression, how the camera seemingly follows his movements. And what made it funnier is that the build-up to this creepy reveal was just so good, to where I was literally sinking so deep into my seat where I was just like kind of dreading to see what was gonna happen, until I saw this, to where I just looked at one of my friends beside me and started dying of laughter. It's one of the most fond memories I have in a theater, because it was just so unexpected. Another thing I really enjoy about this movie is its tone, as it goes for a lot of very incredibly upbeat and also wholesome childhood moments that will make you smile and laugh, but also some incredibly dark and intense moments that sometimes don't even have to do with Pennywise. Like, there's a lot of other stuff going on in this movie as well, and it makes for a tone that shows the blissful experience of childhood, mixed with the unfortunate truth that the world isn't all sunshine and rainbows, and that real evil lies around every corner. It's perfect for the film and allows for humor and horror to work so well together, and it feels just authentic. And also, I love the themes of loyalty and friendship in this movie. I know it is a bit of a cliche, but man, the oath that they give at the end of the film, like as an example, man, that makes me emotional every time. Like, I just love that moment so much. You can really see the love that they all share for one another, and how despite they went through hell, they're still back here with one another, fighting for one another, and it's just so powerful, man, in my opinion. The score as well is just perfect in this film also, mixing the late 90s with a delightfully spine-chilling soundtrack. It's just so freaking good, and that also relates heavily to, like, the sound design in this movie. Like, it's perfect. Like, for a horror movie, it's just great. Ugh, it gets under your skin. It's perfect. The sets in this movie are also great, and the CGI is surprisingly decent. The makeup and practical work is all good as well, and the kills are really surprisingly gruesome at points. And I gotta say, too, this really doesn't have anything to do with the movie itself, but this movie looked like a blast to film. Every clip I see is some incredibly funny or wholesome moment of Bill out of character talking to the kids, and it's just so, it's surreal, but it's so funny.
Hey guys, are you ready to beat the shit out of me? I can't hear you!
And I will give you a fun fact, Andy Muschietti, and I actually really like this, actually hid Skarsgård from the kids until their first scenes together, so he can capture their genuine reactions of them being scared. And despite this, Skarsgård still asked the kids every single take that they were like okay afterwards.
And then they said, you know, they yell cut, and I go, are you okay, Jack? He goes, love what you're doing. I love what you're doing with the character. I love what you're doing with the character.
I love this guy. He's so funny, and he's just so wholesome. And listen, I know it's not that kind of video, but for the sake of while we're here, I'm gonna give this movie a rating using the system we use for regular reviews. So critically, I'd give this movie about an 8 out of 10, while from a casual point of view, I'm definitely giving it a 9 out of 10. Personally, that's where I would land with this movie, more or less. And for a tagline, I gotta say, despite the nostalgia, this movie made me float because I truly loved it. And here we are at the end of the video. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who decided to stick around this far. This video was a really important video to me, and I'm glad you hopefully enjoyed watching it and me talking about one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I was going to talk about Chapter 2 in the same video as well, but after rewatching it, I'd have a lot more to say in that video, so I'm going to leave that for a separate video potentially. But if you're interested in me revisiting Chapter 2, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. But with all that said, if you like what you saw here, make sure to like and subscribe the video. But until next time, friends, I'll see you later.